I'm Gary C. Johnson. You've seen these billboards and ads that say size matters. I agree. The size that matters is the size of the results the law firm gets for their clients. We have several multi-million-dollar verdicts here in Kentucky. In fact, our firm owns the record for the single largest personal injury verdict in the state of Kentucky. That's the size that matters to you. In Kentucky, give our firm the call.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law of Life provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law of Life with Gary C. Johnson and Keith Casebolt.
Hello everyone, welcome into Simply the Law of Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, and the guy that's going to take us through all of the laws of life, my friend Gary C. Johnson.
How we doing, guys and gals? Having any fun? Huh? A little bit? Isn't it a wonderful world? All of you got the thoughts under control. You're talking to them and saying, hey, this isn't real. Right? You're not criticizing, condemning, or complaining. You're not making any assumptions. You've quit giving an unsolicited advice. Bet you haven't. How many of you gave, hold your hands, how many of you gave unsolicited advice just within the last week?
But let me tell you who hasn't. On the way down to do this program with you, I met a wonderful gentleman by the name of Philip Bryant from Hazard. Philip was so kind to come over and speak to me and said, tell Gary Johnson that I never miss a show and that it is informative and that I have learned a lot. So Philip has not done any of those things that you talked about.
Philip, you don't even do the imaginary anything, do you?
He's got it down pat.
You got it down pat. Hey, bet you're happy, huh? Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, Philip, we've given you a little bit of advice along the way that's kept you out of a few fights with somebody next to you. That's made you use the 24-hour rule before you open your mouth a little bit, huh? Thank you, Philip, for watching. We sincerely appreciate it. I also want to thank, and ever so often I get a nice email from Tanya Everidge. Tanya, if you're watching, thank you for your emails, and thank you for watching. And last week, we got a wonderful email from a lady. Keith, tell us about it.
Karen Watts. And you know, Karen was a first-time viewer. And I was telling Gary, I said, look at this. What a wonderful email from Karen, first-time viewer, talking about the information. And Gary looked at me and said, she didn't turn the channel. When she saw you and me come up, she stayed on the channel. But Karen took the time to write a wonderful email talking about the information and about how it can be used to be happier. And it was quite a compliment that she took the time to do that.
Thank you, Karen, and I agree with exactly what you said in the email. I'm not going to repeat it, but I agree 100%, okay? You are exactly right. So, getting on with what we're going to do today, I'm going to read to you some more out of this book right here, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, because I think that if we can, you know, I don't just agree with everything he says, okay? But he's got a lot of good things that I do agree with. Primarily about how, if we could ever get to the point to where we can be where we are, instead of somewhere else, we will have achieved a magnificent goal in our life of having some contentment, not being depressed, not being anxious, and all of those things, fearful, all of those things that suck the happiness right out of us.
Gary, you know the one statement that you have read from that book that I had a real tough time coming to understand was when Edgar said, you do not have a future. There is no future. If you live to get there, it will be the now. It won't be the future. So what he was saying is, you have the now, which is today, and if you do live tomorrow, it will still be the now. It's not the future. It took me a long time to get my head wrapped around that.
Same way with the past. Everything you did in the past was in the now. So when you're thinking back about what happened in the now, right?
Now that's what gets you, because when you think back to fond memories of times, now you've got to ask yourself, was I really there? Was I 100% engaged at that time, even though it was a great memory?
Mm-hmm. Of course you weren't, but you will be from now on.
You better believe it.
Huh? Right, guys? Gals? I hope that none of you are pouting right now about something, some imagined slide, okay? I don't know why that popped in my head, but sometimes it does, and I'm thinking that one of my friends out there may need to be reminded about making assumptions. Remember, never assume anything. And I suspect one of you right now is pouting because you've assumed that you've been slighted, or you've assumed something the other person did, or you assumed that what they said was something different than what they meant. Okay?
Can I give you an example? I was at a golf event a couple of weeks ago, and an individual said concerning another individual, he saw me, and he never came up and said hello to me and shook my hand. So I went to the other individual, and guess what? The other individual didn't know this guy was even in the event. He said, I never saw him. I didn't even know he was playing. Where's he at? I'll go find him. But this other individual was so sure that he had been seen and slighted, and it wasn't true.
Those imagined slides have caused us more misery over our lifetime than we could ever tell, right? And it's all imagined. So, my friends, you aren't doing that. You've quit doing it, right? But let's go to the computer. I'm going to go there real quick, and then I'm going to come right back and read you from old Edgar here. There's our number in case any of you need to reach us. We're in Lexington. There's the number. You can reach me at GaryCJohnson.com. Thank you again, Karen, for the email. I'm going to go to the book because, honestly, I find this stuff a whole lot more interesting than the law. Okay?
You know, you told me one time, you said, Keith, the greatest reality show, and I know there's a lot of people that love their reality TV shows, but you said the greatest one is our lives. And if you will get in tune to everybody around you, you'll have the greatest reality show that was ever created. And you are right.
But you have to stop being judgmental. You cannot judge what that other person's doing or not doing and enjoy the reality show. Remember, how many times have I said it on this show, and I'm going to say it again. We are as different on the inside as we are on the outside. Yet we expect everybody to be the same as us on the inside. We don't expect them to be the same as us on the outside. We can see, right? But we accept them to have the same feelings, the same sensitivity we've got. We expect them to be, and we judge them based on who we are. Stop doing that, my friends. You have to judge the person based on who they are. Or better yet, don't judge them at all. They're just being who they are. No more, no less. And it's wonderful. You can then thoroughly enjoy the reality when you stop judging. I'm telling you, try it.
You know, Gary always brings you back down to earth. I was showing or talking to him about an example of someone doing something, and Gary said, based upon the information they had at the time, they probably made the best decision they could make. What would you have done, Keith? I said, oh, I'd have screwed it up a whole lot worse. Knowing what I know now, I would have done an even worse job at it.
Well, that's the point. It's people are here on earth to enjoy each other. But the Lord put a wrinkle in it when He made us all different. And the wrinkle is, how could you possibly enjoy someone if they were just like you? Huh? One time me and Keith said, well, if every man in the world looked like George Clooney, we would be stars.
Yeah.
Because we'd be different.
Gary said, you think about it. Every man in the world looks like George Clooney, and then there's the two of us.
Yeah.
Women would come out of the woodwork.
That's right.
They would be
tired.
they'd be so tired of George Clooney.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
No, there's only one George Clooney, and he's doing fine.
So isn't it fun, folks? Isn't life fun? And that's what I want you to understand, and that's why this year was our goal, was us to be happy and quit being judgmental and appreciate people for who and what they are, understanding everybody that's human has all the frailties that come with you being human, including you, my friend. And hopefully the folks around you won't judge you, right?
And you know, Gary, that's the great feeling when someone that comes up like Karen or Philip or Tanya or whoever says, some of the information made me smile, it made me think, it made me happier, just for a moment. Anybody that gets a little bit of relief from that old chatterbox and has a better minute, better hour, or better day, that's pretty exciting.
That's what it's all about. Now I'm going to read to you some stuff. And I may have at some point in the past read this to you folks, but when I was going through the book, I realized it hit me. There's some of you that's not heard it, or if you did hear it, you didn't listen. So I'm going to read it again, okay? Because this is important. See if you can catch yourself complaining in either speech or thought about a situation you find yourself in, what other people do or say, your surroundings, your life situation, or even the weather. To complain is always non-acceptance of what is. It invariably carries out an unconscious negative charge. When you complain, you make yourself into a victim. When you speak out, you are in your power. So change the situation by taking action or speaking out if necessary or possible. Leave the situation or accept it. All else is madness. And I'd almost read that section again because it is so powerful. But I'm not. Okay? Now, if there is truly nothing that you can do to change your here and now, and you can't remove yourself from the situation, then accept your here and now totally by dropping all inner resistance. The false, unhappy self that loves feeling miserable, resentful, or sorry for itself can no longer survive. This is called surrender. Surrender is not a weakness. There is great strength in it. Only a surrendered person has spiritual power. Through surrender, you will be free internally of the situation. You may then find that the situation changes without any effort on your part. In any case, you are free. Or is there something that you should be doing but are not doing? Get up off your rear and do it now. Alternatively, completely accept your inactivity, laziness, or passivity at this moment and accept it. Okay, I'm being lazy. I ain't going to do nothing. Okay, so what? That is your choice. Go into it fully, enjoy it, be as lazy or as inactive as you possibly can if that's your choice. If you go into it fully and consciously, you will soon come out of it. Or maybe you won't. Either way, there is no inner conflict, no resistance, no negativity. Are you stressed? Are you so busy getting to the future that the present is reduced to a means of getting there? Stress is caused by being here, but always wanting to be there. Or being in the present, but wanting to be in the future. It's a split that tears you apart inside. To create and live with such an inner split is insane. The fact that everyone else is doing it doesn't make it any less insane. If you have to, you can move fast, work fast, or even run without projecting yourself into the future and without resisting the present. As you move, work, run, do it totally. Enjoy the flow of energy, the high energy of that moment. Now you are no longer stressed, no longer splitting yourself into just moving, running, working at, and enjoying it. Or you can drop the whole thing and sit on a park bench. But when you do, watch your mind. It may say, you should be working. You are wasting time. Observe the mind and just smile at it. Say, okay. Does the past take up a great deal of your attention? Do you frequently talk and think about it, either positively or negatively? The great things that you have achieved, your adventures or experiences, or your victim story and the dreadful things that were done to you, or maybe what you did to someone else. Are your thought processes creating guilt, pride, resentment, anger, regret, or self-pity? Then you are not only reinforcing a false sense of self, but also helping to accelerate your body's aging process by creating an accumulation of past in your psyche. Verify this for yourself by observing those around you who have a strong tendency to hold on to the past. It is insane to do so. I just thought I'd read a little bit of that.
You know, a couple of things while you were reading, when you were talking about the negativity. In church the other day, the pastor was talking about Robinson Crusoe on the island. He said he could have written down, I don't have clothes, but instead he wrote down, the temperature is great here, I don't need clothes. He could have written down, we don't have any meat to eat. Instead he wrote down, there's all kinds of fruit, and it's better for me anyway. But he was talking about taking the positive route, which is what you said right there. The other thing, when you talked about stress, I immediately went back in my mind years ago when I came to you and said, Gary, I'm under a lot of pressure and I'm under a lot of stress. And to this day, I loved your answer. You said, you mean to tell me they're about to cut you up and put you in a pot and boil you? And I said, no. And you said, you got nothing to worry about.
No, there's nothing to worry about. It's the truth.
That was your answer. If they're not about to kill you, cut you up, put you in a pot, and boil you, you're okay.
You can get by anything else.
Yes.
Now that you need to be worried about if that happens to you. Absolutely. You can stress out about that, folks, if it happens, okay? Otherwise, nah. Okay, I'm going to read a little more to you. Okay, you'll say, one day I'll make it. Is your goal taking up so much of your attention that you reduce the present moment to a means to an end? Is it taking the joy out of your doing? Are you waiting to start living? If you develop such a mind pattern, no matter what you achieve or get, the present will never be good enough. The future will always seem better. A perfect recipe for permanent dissatisfaction and non-fulfillment, don't you agree? Are you a habitual waiter? How much of your life do you spend waiting? What I call small-scale waiting is waiting in line at the post office, in a traffic jam at the airport, or waiting for someone to arrive, to finish work, and so on. Large-scale waiting is waiting for the next vacation, for a better job, for the children to grow up, for a truly meaningful relationship, for success, to make more money, to be important, to become enlightened. It is not uncommon for people to spend their whole life waiting to start living. Waiting is a state of mind. Basically, it means that you want the future and you don't want the present, which is all you have. You don't want what you've got, but you want what you haven't got. With every kind of waiting, you unconsciously create inner conflict between your here and now, where you don't want to be, and the projected future where you want to be. This greatly reduces the quality of your life by making you lose the present completely. I just think that's powerful.
You know, you had mentioned this chapter before on the radio, and just recently I had to be in a waiting room with my wife, and when she went in for the appointment, I thought back about what you read, and I watched everyone in the waiting room. The couple over here were talking and laughing. The individual over here was laughing and talking. There was another individual that was reading a great magazine. And then there was one lady that was checking her watch, and every few minutes she would throw up her hands and go, how long is it going to take? And I thought, happy, happy, happy,
Miserable.
Miserable, yes. And I mean, you were so right. So the next time that you're in a waiting room or a line or airport, wherever, what you just read, look around and you'll be able to determine who is happy and content and who's not so happy.
Who's been watching the show, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Friends of ours.
Okay, so I'm going to read you a little bit more. There's nothing wrong with striving to improve your life situation. You can improve your life situation, but you cannot improve your life. Life is primary. Life is your deepest inner being. It is already whole, complete, perfect. Your life situation consists of your circumstances and your experiences. There is nothing wrong with setting goals and striving to achieve things. The mistake lies in using it as a substitute for the feeling of life, for being. The only point of access is the now. You are then like an architect who pays no attention to the foundation of a building, but spends a lot of time working on the superstructure. For example, many people are waiting for prosperity. It cannot come in the future. When you honor, acknowledge, and fully accept your present reality, when you are who you are, what you are doing right now, when you fully accept what you've got, you are grateful for what you have got, grateful for what is, grateful for being, gratitude for the present moment and the fullness of life now is true prosperity. You are already prosperous. It cannot come in the future. Then in time, that prosperity manifests for you in various ways. If you're dissatisfied with what you've got, or even frustrated or angry about your present lack, that may motivate you to become rich, but even if you do make millions, you will continue to experience the inner condition of lack, and deep down you will continue to feel unfulfilled. You may have many exciting experiences that money can buy, but they will come and go and always leave you with an empty feeling and the need for further physical or psychological gratification. You won't abide in being, and so feel the fullness of life now. That alone, and that is the only thing that will give you true prosperity. So give up waiting as a state of mind. When you catch yourself slipping into waiting, snap out of it. Come into the present moment. Just be and enjoy being. If you are present, there's never any need for you to wait for anything. So next time somebody says, "Sorry, I've kept you waiting," you can reply, "That's all right. I wasn't waiting. I was just standing here enjoying myself, in my joy of being myself."
How powerful is that? Let's go back to the first line that you read. You can improve your life's situation, but you cannot improve your life.
Right.
The point of this, back to the reverence for life, if you truly have a reverence for life, you're already happy and ecstatic and tickled to death that you are here.
And you're already prosperous.
Prosperous.
Now, if you get
happy.
more things and you make more money and you do well, that's fine.
So you're basically saying, we're the cake. The only thing we can do is put icing on it. But remember, you're the cake.
But don't make the icing the deal,
Yes.
because it won't work.
And what another powerful line. The next time that someone comes up to you, whether you're in a convenience store, you're at the grocery store, Walmart, or you're at the doctor's office, wherever, and they say, "Sorry, you had to wait." What a great line to say, I wasn't waiting. I was actually sitting here enjoying the now.
Enjoying the joy of myself.
Of just being alive.
Of being alive.
Being able to think, being able to talk, to read, to communicate.
To look around. Let's go, computer. I want to talk to you about the Good Samaritan for just a second. There's a Good Samaritan laws to protect persons who attempt to aid others in an emergency. Even if the person providing the aid is negligent, they cannot be sued by the victim for attempting to render aid. Some states protect everyone that attempts to render aid. Kentucky is specific in listing those who are protected. KRS 411-148, Kentucky Revised Statutes. The non-liability of licensees and certified technicians for emergency care. Physicians, nurses, certified EMTs, all of those people are immune from being sued if they're trying to render aid, even if they're negligent, under the Good Samaritan law. Person certified in CPR, Board of Education employees certified in first aid. KRS 313-257 protects dentists as well as physicians. Exceptions: willful or wanton misconduct. In other words, if they deliberately hurt somebody, then they're going to be responsible when they're trying to render aid. Where care is given in exchange for payment. In other words, if you have to pay them for giving you the care, then they're not exempt under this. Good Samaritan. Kentucky law allows actions for negligence against individuals that aren't listed in these statutes. So be careful. Any non-professional that attempts to render aid must use ordinary care. You've got to be careful if you're going to render aid to somebody. You're not immune from being sued. It's interesting that the professionals are immune from liability for negligence, while a non-professional must use ordinary care. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and we just recently had all the flooding, the flash flooding, and there were a lot of people trying to render aid.
But some poor old non-professional must use ordinary care, whereas professionals are supposed to know what they're doing. They're immune under the statute. I just thought that was interesting. Pass on to you folks. Duty to rescue. No person is required to give aid to a victim unless there is a special relationship. Some people say, well, they were obligated to help that person. You're not, okay? I'm just giving you some tidbits. It's a few minutes of the program. Special relationships that you do have to render aid is a parent-child, a doctor-patient, or a common carrier. That's like a bus or railroad or something like that. Social host, in other words, you got somebody at home, they start choking, you better help them. Employer, employee, police and firefighters. The duty to rescue. What you undertake to help, you should not leave until someone of equal or higher ability takes over or continues to give aid. Continue to aid becomes unsafe for you. In other words, the water is rising. Okay? Should not give aid without the consent of the victim, but if they're unconscious, I assume
You've got
you
consent.
can assume consent. Consent is applied if the victim can't communicate, okay? That's the law. The concept that a person injured while rendering aid has a cause of action against the person causing the dangerous situation. That's the rescue doctrine. The person injured while rendering aid has a cause of action against the person causing the dangerous condition. Not true, they don't. Person that is being rescued must have caused the dangerous condition before they can be held responsible.
Thanks again to Philip, to Karen, to Tanya, to everybody that was able to send us a message or talk to us. And remember, if you're waiting in line and someone says, sorry you had to wait, the answer is, I wasn't waiting. I was here in the now enjoying me. My friend, thank you for the program.
Wonderful to be here. Wonderful to be alive. Thank you, guys.
On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can reach Gary at GaryCJohnson.com if you have a comment. We look forward to seeing you again next week at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
I'm Gary C. Johnson. You've seen these billboards and ads that say size matters. I agree. The size that matters is the size of the results the law firm gets for their clients. We have several multi-million-dollar verdicts here in Kentucky. In fact, our firm owns the record for the single largest personal injury verdict in the state of Kentucky. That's the size that matters to you. In Kentucky, give our firm the call.